Now, the man who first broke it all here in great detail is Roger Stone, former head of the Trump campaign, now Infowars.com correspondent. Roger?
Alex, Washington, D.C. is reeling not only because of the revelations by John Solomon and his colleagues at The Hill. Solomon is a solid reporter. He is the guy who originally broke the story with Sarah Carter about the super secret FISA court confirming that the Obama NSA spied on roughly 30,000 Americans for political espionage purposes in violation of the law and the Constitution. Some of what is about to break is known. I have a report on what will happen tonight. But first of all, let's look at the incredible reporting by Solomon, who now proves that the Obama administration, the U.S. Attorney, Rod Rosenstein, and the Associate Director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, were in charge of an investigation that detailed massive bribes within the Russian nuclear industry to officials in the United States, laying the groundwork for the approval of the transfer of control of a substantial portion of America's enriched uranium output to a Russian front company controlled by Vladimir Putin.
So the breaking news is we knew the payoffs were going on. Now we're just learning the details, and it's being confirmed. This is sensational.
Well, but here's what we will learn tonight. My sources tell me that we are going to learn that there was a great deal more than was reported this morning by The Hill, in that Hillary's so-called reset with the Russians involved the sale of military technology and enormous payments to John Podesta in connection with that so-called reset. So Hillary has been caught with her fingers in the cookie jar yet again. Now, you'll remember, Alex, that from the beginning, Hillary claimed she had nothing to do with the committee that approved the transfer of this uranium sale to the Russians. We now know that's a lie, and we know that John Podesta was among those lining his pockets in the sale of additional military technology. That is the bombshell that Sean Hannity will reveal in greater detail tonight.
We'll be right back with Roger Stone on the other side. We are the resistance. Love the Democrats trying to steal our term. We've got Trump and only a few other things in. We're battling the media, the globalists, the communist Chinese, the Silicon Valley, all their slave factories in China, Lloyd Blankfein and Goldman Sachs. We're taking the republic back, ladies and gentlemen. And Trump's forcing a lot of globalists to do his will, but they're fighting to destroy him while they're at it. Roger Stone's our guest. And again, I'm not trying to steal thunder from Sean Hannity. Just the facts are, The Hill and these reporters that he's mentioning, The Hill itself I don't like. They write a lot of disinfo about me, but they do have some good reporters there. It's kind of a mixed bag. Are exposing bombshell info about the details of the uranium deal that was reported on by the New York Times back in 2015 that is super shady, like the Reservoir Foundation, and the witnesses and the documents, as I told you back at the time, of weapons transfers. Well, that's all here. So now we know that Roger Stone was dead on, and we're only putting that out here because he's been to Congress. They've said he's a Russian agent with no evidence. They've said I am. So we need to point out that those of us that have been in the crosshairs of this are the ones that day one, before they ever implicated Roger, he was saying, look, Podesta's going to have his day, the exact quote was his day in the chute, his day in the dock. We'll go back to him. And then they use that clip from my show and others to say, see, they knew he was getting Russian info. What, Russians told us that Podesta was paid off? No, it was because we were on the Russia beat that we got put in as the Russian agents. That's why it's important we get the credit now of being right last year so that people understand why we were targeted for our own protection. I mean, is that not clear, Roger? We need to make that clear to people.
No, I think this goes well beyond anything we knew previously. The FBI...
No, I'm saying it confirms everything we said and why we were targeted.
Without any question whatsoever. First of all, let me point out that John Podesta's Russian business dealings were first revealed in the Panama Papers in January of last year.
And a car just blew up. She just got killed.
Interestingly, so the reporter who first exposed Podesta was brutally murdered only yesterday by a car bomb. So, Alex, be very careful when you start your car. These people play for keeps. But what we now know is that the FBI and the Justice Department had a full-on investigation proving multi-million-dollar bribery by the Russians to U.S. officials both in and out of government. And this information was kept from the committee that made this decision, was kept from the House and Senate Intelligence Committees, was essentially covered up. Now, here's the irony, Alex. The investigation started under FBI Director Robert Mueller. It finished under FBI Director James Comey. It was conducted by FBI Associate Director Andrew McCabe and directed by U.S. Attorney Rod Rosenstein. In other words, the exact four individuals now pushing the Trump is colluded with the Russians narrative are the four guys who covered up this connection between the Russians and Hillary and the Russians and massive bribes within the Obama administration.
And by the way, Roger,
ironic.
Exactly. I mean, that's why I'm bringing this up. I'd even forgotten the point that the Pentagon Papers lady that exposed the Podesta connection, proving what you were already saying, she got blown up and killed yesterday as all this comes to a head. They tried to T-bone and kill you. You also got poisoned with polonium. And obviously, the feds asked you not to talk about it anymore. I mean, this really is out of control.
There's no question whatsoever. Look, I think tonight's show with Sean Hannity is going to help blow this open even wider when it is learned why Hillary Clinton and Podesta were paid so much by the Russians. Because it involves the transfer, we will learn, of military technology. These people would steal a hot stove, or in some cases, they would sell a hot stove. This goes back to something, as you know, Bill Clinton did during his presidency, selling military missile targeting technology to the Chinese for campaign contributions, giving the Russians $1 billion that they used to build hardened shelters for a future nuclear attack. So the Clintons have a long history of selling out their country for big bucks, and they've been caught red-handed doing it yet again.
And Roger, this is so sensational. The only reason I brought up the fact that we had first all covered this and that more and more has now come out, and that, yes, Hannity is breaking new information. Again, you know I support Hannity. I'm not in competition with him. I just need to point out we were right. We got demonized. They have congressional hearings where they say you're a Russian agent with no proof, and they say I'm a Russian agent with no proof, and I'm directed by the Kremlin, all because Podesta was desperate to cover this up in the campaign. That's why we've got to point out why we were targeted.
That's exactly right. I mean, look, you have to take your hat off to the brilliance of it. Podesta knows that he and his brother are deeply compromised. There's the uranium deal, there's the bank deal, there's the Gazprom deal. Bill and Hillary have been paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in speaking fees, which are really thinly described bribes. What better way to distract the American people from all of that than to say, oh, look over there. Donald Trump, he's in bed with Putin. He's in bed with the Russians.
And have the lapdog media parrot over and over again that they've got total proof and they've got NSA intercepts. And it turns out they did spy illegally, but there's nothing there.
They turned up absolutely nothing, not a scintilla of evidence, not a shred of evidence that would hold up in a court of law. It is brilliant in a way, this strategy of distraction. I think you pointed it out day before yesterday. The Clintons and the Democrats have systematically accused Trump of everything that they themselves have been involved in, whether it is sexual assault and the phony charges that they're trying to recycle now against our president, or whether it is scheming and taking payoffs from the Russians. They're guilty, but they project it on to Donald Trump.
Well, it's like the Epstein deal. He's on the plane 20-plus times with little girdles being flown to this island, Bill Clinton is. So they have a Jane Doe file a fake lawsuit claiming Trump did it 20 years ago. It turns out it's totally fake just to cover their bases. Whatever they've done, they accuse Trump of. It's incredible. So let me ask you this question. We're going to go to break in 5 more minutes, but be ruminating on this, Roger Stone. What do they do next? It looks like the president's finally getting the Justice Department to do some of its job. We're learning, confirming, again, Comey did lie, did tell Hillary there was no investigation, did sign a document saying the investigation was over when he still kept the investigation going for 2 months in public. That's all coming up. What's the next shoe to drop coming up straight ahead? And then, ladies and gentlemen, we have Paul Joseph Watson coming up. Before we go any further, we need financial support. You know, he's not joking around about the danger we're in. And I don't enjoy that fact. I just trust in God and know it's my mission, because I'm not backing down to these pedophile networks and devil worshippers and globalists. And you see it all just coming out. But if you'll just commit and buy the products that are high quality, get the T-shirts, get the water filtration, get all the things you already need. They're the highest rated, the lowest prices. Whatever's the best, we get it. Whatever's the best supplement, we private label it and discount it 10 to 50%. Anthroplex for stamina, energy, you name it. We never discount it, but this is my new policy to go absolutely the lowest price out there. 50% off Anthroplex. Caveman, we've had it on sale, 50% off for almost a month. It will end today because we're selling out and won't get more in for weeks. So I've got to end the Caveman special today. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, or 888-253-3139. Ending this week, Brain Force Plus, 50% off that Roger loves. Secret 12, methylcobalamin, high quality vitamin B12, 40% off. Survival Shield X2, the amazing good halogen. Find out about its benefits. It's powerful, especially if you're deficient in true iodine. 40% off. BioTrue Selenium, another electrochemical enhancer that you must have to live. It's 40% off. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, or 888-253-3139. That special is about to end on Caveman with all those different superfoods, including the bone broth, the turmeric, the chaga mushroom, the bee pollen, and more. That is all about to end today. Brain Force is ending, I say this week. The next few days, I've got to end it. Secret 12, X2, BioTrue Selenium. But the new specials are Anthroplex and Super Male. 50% off on the Anthroplex, 30% off on Super Male. But here's the problem. Those are about to sell out because there's not much of those either. I have this intention to just blow everything out, ladies and gentlemen. And then I'm going to push mainly in the holidays T-shirts and books and videos and things that we've got a giant array of, but a lot of which I haven't been promoting so much. They're just sitting there. So that is all coming up. Roger Stone, vindicated in triplicate, straight ahead. I've been vindicated, and I'm not saying that like I'm bragging. We're in a total war. Praise God, and thank you for all your prayers. By the way, folks, we're not trying to act like we're tough guys here talking about danger. The main reporter that broke Podesta and the Russia connection, the bank account he had down there in Panama, her car blew up yesterday. She's an investigative reporter with major news agencies. So I was just talking to, well, let's just repeat what you were saying off air, Roger. I mean, Podesta attacks you and I by name every time he can. He shakes with anger when he says our names, and he is one slimy operator that thought he could sell out our secrets to Russia and get away with it. And he tried to hang around our necks and our president's neck what he did. I mean, let's talk about it. If anything happens to us, we didn't commit suicide, and Hillary and Podesta and all of them are suspects number one. And we know the courts aren't going to do justice. But I'll tell you this for myself and my family. Something happens to me, everybody knows what to do. And I'm done talking, and I'm not worried about it. But if something happens, justice will be served one way or another. There's a two-way street in this universe. You want to say anything about that, Roger?
Alex, you're not blowing smoke. I can tell you that since my testimony before the House Intelligence Committee, the number of death threats against me and my family has almost tripled. But yesterday, in the wake of our uncovering the fraudulent smear of the president for sexual assault, they hit an all-time high, 15 different death threats in the last 24 hours. Now, Alex, my wife celebrated her birthday on Saturday. We had a surprise party for her, mostly family and friends. I posted it on Twitter, and the torrent of invective, the torrent of, we're going to kill you, we're going to kill your family. They even threatened to kill my dogs. That's how outrageous this has gotten. I got to be honest with you, I can't travel without security anymore because of people who want to just come up to you in the street. I saw people pouring hot coffee on you when you went out west. This is now times 10, the death threats against us, simply because we are truth tellers, simply because InfoWars has been the first one to expose the Russia-Hillary connection. So I'm sick of it. But if anything happens to me, if they tell you that I was killed in a hunting accident, I don't hunt. If they tell you that I was killed outside crossing the street, believe me, I look both ways. I have never felt this kind of danger, but let me say this. They are not going to shut us up. We are not going to be intimidated or silenced. We are going to continue to speak the truth.
And that's why they hate us so much, is because they know we're for real. We're not backing down. We're destroying them. We're winning.
Well, it's one thing to threaten to kill me, but when you threaten to kill my wife, you threaten to kill my children, you threaten to kill my grandchildren, kill my dog, you're taking on more than you can handle, pal. I'm sick of these cowards who use fake names on Twitter and Facebook.
I was about to say, historically, it's the right-wingers people better worry about, taking action. I mean, we don't start fights, we finish them. I hope all these people understand. They start their real civil war, I mean, they're going to be in some big trouble.
Well, our people believe in the Second Amendment, and they're trained in the use of firearms, and they're not going to have them withdrawn. If the government seeks to take our guns, I think they're going to regret it. This has reached a fever pitch of hatred, and the Clintons have been feeding this. Podesta has been attacking both you and I on his Twitter feed. For months go by, he doesn't tweet at all, and then out of the blue, he attacks Roger Stone and Alex Jones.
Why is that? Because they've got so many enemies. Why do they hate us so much?
Because we're getting to them, Alex, because the truth hurts, and they know that we are telling the truth. And it doesn't reflect well on them. Now with these revelations today, and by the way, big credit to John Solomon of The Hill and Sarah Carter of Circa and Sean Hannity.
Exactly. Well, always give me credit. I'm just saying we've been demonized for first breaking all this, and so that's why I'm just interjecting here. This validates and proves it's all right. Do 5 more minutes with us to finish up on how groundbreaking this Hill article is on the other side, and then we've got Jack Posobiec hosting this hour, and Roger and I will be leaving here in about 10 minutes. But let's get Posobiec racked up as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the InfoWar. I want to give our amazing crew credit. I want to give all the supporters and the affiliates and our listeners credit, God credit, my family credit, the great guests and members of the crew like Roger Stone for where we are. But listen, we're people, the globalists are people too. They're just ruthless and they're scum. And they know we're on their heels, and they know we can't give up. We can't give in. We can't back down. And yeah, with all their threats and all the stuff they've been doing, and then killing this reporter that exposed Podesta, her car blowing up. I mean, look at Seth Rich, look at all of it. I mean, next they'll say her car blew up on its own, but the police aren't saying that down there. The globalists are getting their clock clean. Globalism is in major decline. Nationalism is rising. Every big pusher of world government is either dying or has brain tumors. 2017 has seen Brzezinski, David Rockefeller, McCain. I don't think he'll make it out of the year. He looks like he's circling the gates of hell. And I don't wish for any harm upon them, but they're the bully thugs that funded ISIS and Al-Qaeda to kill all the Christians in Syria. They're the people coming for us and coming for our rights and engage in all this psychological warfare operations. And, man, it's like claustrophobia. I'm not scared. I want them off of me. I want to get them out of the way. I mean, I'm fleeing forward. And their whole house of cards is coming down right now. Roger Stone's got some closing comments on how powerful this big Hill report is, validating everything the New York Times said in 2015, everything we said in 2016 in our sources, and why they put the Russian narrative around all of our necks. Myself, Roger Stone, more than anybody, Paul Manafort, you name it, because the truth was they were the ones behind it. So Jack Posobiec, breaking all this down, what do you make of how big these revelations are?
Alex, I wanted to explain some of this for people that are looking at it from the outside to understand how unprecedented of an operation this is. We're talking about the FBI, and it's outlined in this report here, sending and recruiting sources and informants actually overseas, working beyond the U.S. borders. Now, this is something that would definitely put them in a jurisdictional area where CIA is going to have a lot of coverage over these activities and what's going on in terms of this. The FBI isn't just going to be running sources throughout all of Russia, tying up with these guys without CIA backing or at least some cover so they understand what's going on, and they don't run parallel investigations. So this is something, the fact that this was known by Eric Holder, the fact that it got to be so big that charges were leveled against these Russian leaders, this is much further beyond the FBI. Yes, that's what they're confirming now, but the FBI does not have the ability to operate with impunity overseas. This all has to fall under the purview of the ambassador, of the station chief that's over there at Moscow. And I expect that there are many more people at the highest levels of government. Clapper, obviously, as DNI, would have known about this.
And we should add, until they basically blew your cover, you were doing this as a private citizen, being politically involved with Trump, that you've been in naval intelligence and worked at classified facilities around the world. And so you can actually speak to this. But this is quite an investigation. And I want to be clear. I'm not poo-pooing that they didn't break some big new stuff. I'm only pointing out it validates everything that myself, Roger, and you've been accused of being a Russian agent. Anybody that's patriotic to America, that actually doesn't sell out to the Chi-Coms or Russia or the Middle East, the Saudi Arabians, we're called the foreign agents with no evidence, because that's what spies do. When you catch them, they point at you and say, no, you're the spy.
And once again, Alex, it's not the investigation, it's the cover-up. As Jack just pointed out, Eric Holder was full aware of the fruits of this investigation, and he serves on the Overseas Private Investment Board that approved the uranium sale, but this information was withheld from that board. So, again, they're caught in their own cover-up. And who's involved? Mueller, Comey, McCabe, Rosenstein. The very guys leading the charge now, accusing our president of colluding with the Russians, for which they have produced no evidence whatsoever. So the splashback on this in the next 48 hours will be extraordinary. And as you point out, it validates everything we have reported here at InfoWars from the beginning, going back to early last year.
And again, if people joined us just now, this is like an 8-page report from The Hill. FBI uncovered Russian bribery plot before Obama administration approved controversial nuclear deal with Moscow. It was known Hillary was still allowed to do it. Other deals, weapons technology, they had documents, they have witnesses, they have the whole thing. Hillary thought she was going to win the presidency. They didn't care. Obama killed the Russia investigation.
Never mind.
He killed the Russia investigation because he knew that he thought Hillary was going to be getting in. Then they had to spin it around and put it on Trump. Closing comment on this information, Roger.
Hey, I gotta go. I love you.
All right, we've lost audio to Roger real quick. We're going to get his audio fixed. Let me go back to Jack Posobiec. Jack, this is just sensational. How are they going to cover this up?
Alex, what they're going to try to do here is to say that, oh, this has been answered and litigated, that this has already been done before. Hillary Clinton tries to do this at the same time when they bring up sort of Bill Clinton's discretions in the past. She says, oh, it's been litigated. She'll try to say that the FBI investigated and there was nothing done. Well, now we found that all of this stuff was going on as far back as the original Mueller years. It was continued under Comey, who was, of course, handpicked by Mueller to replace him.
And that's why Mueller's so desperate, because he's a kingpin involved in it. Remember him with the briefcase delivering the samples?
Yes, he was the one. He's always been the bag man.
He actually delivers the Russians the goods, and it's all confirmed.
And we now know. And it was, so we really should
imagine if you had you or I or Roger on the tarmac. Here's the uranium, and then they're saying we're the Russian agents.
They're gonna say, who gave Alex Jones the uranium? and then I guess the worry would be that you would keep it for yourselves and use to power the InfoWars studio down there.
Unbelievable.
But no, It's completely unbelievable because Mueller, of course, and this goes back, Alex, to the stuff that you've been talking about for the last 15 years. All of the stuff that came out in the Patriot Act and warrantless wiretapping, all of the stuff where they're now moving in with Russia. And you notice that on the Russian side, they were very careful to exclude Vladimir Putin or any of the other major oligarchs in Russia. They targeted on this one specific guy, and they said, look, someone needs to go down. It's going to be this guy. And oh, by the way, he just happened to be a rival of Putin's within Russian government and Russian political circles. So it almost begs the question, were the Clintons and the Obama administration actually colluding to do the bidding of Vladimir Putin? So now we're learning that the stuff that they're turning on us, this is how they knew about all this, because they were the ones doing it all along with the Russians.
That's right. Jack
They were the
Posobiec,
ones with the Russian intel contacts.
Patriot talk show host, naval intelligence. You're going to break all this down coming up as you take over. 2 more minutes left, Roger. Your audio's back. This is so sensational. I even forgot about the former FBI director delivering uranium to Russia as part of this deal on a tarmac again. I mean, you can't make this up.
No, and the irony of having Robert Mueller now sitting in judgment on the president. Let's be very clear. He is going to, excuse the expression, bring some trumped-up charges against our president. This is coming just as sure as the sun comes up in the morning. And anyone who doesn't see this is being naive.
And why did the president say today that he's not going to fire Mueller?
Deeply disappointed. I think his advisors convinced him that the firestorm would be too great and that he should simply tough it out. I think the fact that Mueller auditioned, interviewed with the president for Comey's job the day after Comey was fired, that's a conflict of interest. Once he was passed over for that job, it created a motive for his efforts.
But how about him? We forget he admittedly delivered the uranium in the illegal deal. He's literally a James Bond villain. I mean, this guy's a joke.
And if we had a real attorney general who was committed to enforcing the law, right now the guys facing prosecution would be Mueller, Comey, Rosenstein, and McCabe. Instead, who's in their crosshairs but Donald J. Trump? Outrageous. Just outrageous.
Unbelievable. All right, Jack Posobiec's taking over. My head is spinning. Please pray for InfoWars. Please pray for all the guests. And please pray for justice, because we're fighting to take our country back, but it is neck and neck with these evil forces. And I'd even forgotten that Mueller was the bag man for the uranium deal. And, of course, he ordered the investigation shut down. He's the one delivering the goods. I mean, these people are hardcore criminals. We'll be right back with Jack Posobiec. We'll get into Vegas as well.